Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Asatara Satasri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shai Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai. Mathura Dhama Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai. Gangamaya Jamuna Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatyade Satarane. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Panchakalpatri Bhishcha Kripasindhivyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevo Namo Namo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's June 24th, 2024, in Hillsborough, North Carolina, New Goloka. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 52. We're going to read 2 verses, 29 and 30. So starting with 29. Tam bhuktavantam vishrantam upagamya satam gatihi paninabi brisanpadav avyagrastam apricchata. Please chant. Tam bhuktavantam vishrantam upagamyam satam gati sampadav avyagrastam apricchata. Tam bhuktavantam vishrantam upagamya satam gatihi paninabhabrisampadav avyagrastam apricchata. Tam bhuktavantam vishrantam upagamya satam gatihi paninabhirasanpadav avyagrastam apricchata. Tam bhuktavantam vishrantam upagamya satam gatihi paninabhirasanpadav avyagrastam apricchata. Tam, him, bhuktavantam, having eaten, vishrantam, rested, upagamya, approaching, satam, of saintly devotees, gatihi, the goal, panina, with his hands, abhimrisam, massaging, padau, his feet, avyagraha, without agitation, tam, of him, apricchata, he inquired. This is again the Brahmana who's come to see Krishna with Rukmini's message. BBT translation. After the Brahmana had eaten and rested, Sri Krishna, the goal of saintly devotees, came forward, and while massaging the Brahmana's feet with his own hands, he patiently questioned him as follows. There's no BBT purport. We're going to go to the commentary of Sanatana Goswami, which is about the same as Srila Jiva Goswami's. Giving everything else to welcome the guests properly, or with a composed heart, he inquired from the Brahmana, since Krishna was the first shelter of those practicing the highest dharma. And from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Krishna appeared calm, avyagraha, though he was anxious over the marriage. While massaging Abrimrishan, the Brahmana's feet, Krishna inquired from him. Okay. And we're going to go to Srila Prabhupada's translation. In due time, the Brahmana took his bath, accepted his meals, and lay down to rest on a bedstead completely bedecked with soft silk. As he was resting, Lord Sri Krishna silent. Now this is interesting because that's not in the translation nor in the Acharya's commentaries. So just like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur will add like dialogue and detail in his commentary. That's not it. So that's what Prabhupada's doing here. The bath wasn't mentioned, and the bedstead with soft silk wasn't mentioned, so Prabhupada's adding that. As he was resting, Lord Shri Krishna silently approached and with great respect put the Brahmana's legs on his lap and began to massage them. So this also is, Prabhupada's adding details here. That Krishna put the Brahmana's legs on his lap. And Prabhupada's, this calmness, Prabhupada's translating as silently approached and with great respect. Okay, I want to go on to the next verse. I'm going to talk about both these verses together. So text 30, Kvache dvija varasresta dharmaste vrida sammataha vartate nati kritrena santushta manasa sada. BBT translation, the Supreme Lord said, O best of exalted Brahmanas, are your religious practices sanctioned by senior authorities, proceeding without great difficulty? Is your mind always fully satisfied? BBT purport. Here we have translated the word dharma as religious practice, although this does not fully convey the Sanskrit sense of the word. Krishna did not appear within a secular society. The people in Vedic times could hardly imagine a society that did not understand the need to obey God's law. Thus, to them, the word dharma conveyed a sense of duty in general, higher principles, prescribed duty, and so on. It was automatically understood that such duties were within a religious context. But religion in those days was not a specific aspect or department of life, but rather a guiding light for all activities. Irreligious life was considered demoniac, and God's hand was seen in everything. Okay, I'm going to go on to commentaries. So Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur does not have a commentary here. We're going to look at Srila Sanatana Goswami's commentary, which is the same as Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary. O best among the Brahmanas, Krishna established the root of the reasons the Brahmana is the best, because we have this Vadasresta, that means you are the best. In 3 verses, 30 to 32, by first inquiring with compassion. He inquired about the purity by asking if there was an agreement with the ancient 12 devotees like Yagya and his present gurus. So this is the Vrida Samataha that Srila Sanatana Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami are saying. This Vrida Samataha means, are the duties you're doing now, are they in parampara? Are you doing the proper duties, something that's not concocted? Are the duties not too difficult to accomplish? He does not ask if his duties are being performed comfortably, but rather without suffering. So he's asking in the negative. He's not saying, are they pleasant? He's saying, are they not unpleasant? The intention is to indicate that the Brahmana should be able to perform his duties without intense suffering. It is understood that the Brahmana has been successful. Now you might say, well, does success not result from the effort? And Srila Sanatana Goswami is saying, even in not attaining results, he should have a satisfied mind. So the 3 things, are you doing duties that are proper duties that were actually given by in the parampara? Are you doing those duties without too much difficulty and suffering? And are you peaceful even if your duties don't give you the result that you want? Okay, I'm going to read the Sanskrit of both verses, and I'm going to read Srila Prabhupada's translation of both verses together. So, tam bhukta vantam vishrantam upagamya satam gatihi pani na bimrasampadav avyagrastam aprichtita kvacha dvija varashresta dharmaste vridasammataha vartante nati kritrena santushta manasa sada. Santushta. Tushta means satisfied. Manasa, your mind, sada, is your mind always satisfied? Okay. So again, I'm going to read again Srila Prabhupada's translation to text 29 and then go on to his translation mixed with his commentary of text 30. In due time, the Brahmana took his bath, accepted his meals, and lay down to rest on a bedstead completely bedecked with soft silk. As he was resting, Lord Sri Krishna silently approached and with great respect put the Brahmana's legs on his lap and began to massage them. In this way, Krishna appeared before the Brahmana and said, "My dear Brahmana, I hope that you are executing the religious principles without difficulty and that your mind is always peaceful." So what were the three things again? Your religious duties, no difficulty, and that you're peaceful. And now Srila Prabhupada's, this is Prabhupada's commentary on this. Different classes of people in the social system are engaged in various professions. And when one inquires as to the well-being of a particular person, he should do so on the basis of that person's occupation. Therefore, when one inquires as to the welfare of a Brahmana, the question should be worded according to his condition of life, so as not to disturb him. A peaceful mind is the basis for becoming truthful, clean, equipoised, self-controlled, and tolerant. So this is a very important point, that if you don't have a peaceful mind, you can't have other good qualities. Thus, by attaining knowledge and knowing its practical application in life, one becomes convinced about the absolute truth. The Brahmana knew Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and still he accepted the respectful service of the Lord on the grounds of Vedic social convention. So instead of the Brahmana worshiping Krishna, Krishna was worshiping the Brahmana. Lord Sri Krishna was playing just like a human being. Because he belonged to the Kshatriya division of the social system and was a young boy, it was his duty to show respect to such a Brahmana. So two things there, that the Kshatriya and Brahmana, and that the junior and senior. So here we see a number, in these two verses, we see a number of instances of etiquette and what we could call the science of relationships. Like Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is basically the science of relationships. How do you analyze relationships? Which is fascinating. You know, we can say God is love, we should love God, but what does it mean to love? Yes, and Krishna here is showing the personal nature of love. You know, there's a multi-billion-dollar industry in trying to have people learn the science of relationships. Am I correct? I mean, if you want to make a course and have guaranteed that people will attend your course, or you want to write a book and have guaranteed sales, then teach people the science of relationships. And it's a surefire winner. I was talking to the one visiting devotee the other day, and he was saying, well, you know, it's hard for me to give a class because I don't always know the audience if I come to a new place. And I said, well, there's certain universals, and one universal is that everybody wants to have good relationships. Everyone is looking for satisfying, loving relationships, no matter where you go, whether it's relationships with your parents, with your kids, with your spouse, with your friends, with your animals, whatever, you know, we want to have good relationships, and there's actually a science to this. It's not just sentimentalism. And one of the problems of the Sahajiyas is they don't follow a science of relationships. They think it's all just emotion. And it's one of the main problems in society today in general. One of the main reasons why there's so much divorce. One of the main reasons why there's so much problem between children and parents, between employers and employees, between the government and the citizens, is that people don't understand that there's a system of etiquette and science. So I thought I'd look at three ways in which Krishna was demonstrating this. And the first is how he's balancing his own desires and his own needs with the needs of his guest. And that's particularly in text 29. And then also how he's reciprocating with the rasa, with his rasa, with this Brahmana, how the Brahmana wants to demonstrate his love for him. And finally, how he's reciprocating in terms of ordinary worldly dharma, in terms of the Brahmana being a Brahmana. So balancing his own desires, so of course, the Brahmana hasn't given his message yet. Externally, Krishna doesn't know why he's come. and he hasn't asked him yet. Now that's kind of interesting. You know, some guest comes to your house, and you don't ask him first, why are you here? What do you want? You just first take care of the guest. Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. And Krishna could not. Now, Krishna knew, of course, why, because he's omniscient, so he knew why the Brahmana had come. In fact, as Mother Krishna Priya mentioned yesterday, and we've been talking about how he left the battlefield because he already knew that Rukmini had sent this letter. He knew that it was a time-sensitive situation, and he knew that he had to leave the battlefield and get back so that he can go and kidnap Rukmini. So he already knew that all this is going on. But in his Nara Leela, in his human Leela, he doesn't apparently know. But Krishna, internally, he does know. And so he's very anxious. And again, it's a very time-sensitive thing. He's very, very anxious to get this Brahmana's message and get on with it. At a certain point, the Brahmana is going to say, hey, you can do whatever you want, but if you want to do something, you had better do it now. Because her wedding is just going to be tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and you've got to go kidnap her, and it's this big distance, and they have to take a special chariot with special horses that can go super fast. So it is urgent. And again, Krishna as God, he knows this. But he remains peaceful. He remains respectful. And he doesn't say anything about his own desires and his own anxiety and his own wanting to take care of this situation. Oh, you've come from a long way. You've made a long journey. Take a bath. Have something to eat. Get some rest. Let me massage your feet while you're resting. He's just thinking about taking care of the comfort of the guest before dealing with what he wants to deal with. So I never actually read more than a chapter in his book, the Kavi's book. I read one chapter because my godbrother Sridhar Maharaj urged me to do so, the one about what's the center of your life. But I know that one of his things was seek to understand before wanting to be understood. And of course, Dale Carnegie also in his How to Make Friends and Influence People also talks about that. First, try to understand before seeking to be understood. First, try to relate to the other person. Of course, it's quite interesting. I remember many years ago when I was in New Zealand, I had become very disturbed by some devotees dealing with me. And I had consulted with Bir Krishna Maharaj, and I said, I tried to apply nonviolent communication and tried to understand their feelings and needs, but I wasn't able to do it. I wasn't able to connect. And he said, did you first identify your feelings and needs? And I said, no. And he says, well, you've got to do that first. And so, of course, Krishna being full in himself, he doesn't actually need anybody to fulfill his needs. One of the reasons that he can be patient and one of the reasons that he can be peaceful and is that he's actually already satisfied in himself. His anxiety to rescue Rukmini is just rasa. So the way that we can take care of a guest first and we can take care of other people first is only going to happen if we feel satisfied from within. If we're not feeling satisfied from within, we're going to feel pressured to have other people meet our needs. And therefore, it's going to be difficult for us to actually take care of them first. So this is it's a quite interesting thing. I can't be giving to others and saying I'm going to have my needs wait unless we have some essential peacefulness and some essential stability in knowing that Krishna is meeting my needs. Then we see Krishna's reciprocating with the relationship they have in rasa. So does anyone know who this Brahmana is? Does anyone know the identity of this Brahmana? One of my favorites. Vishvamrita Muni. Vishvamrita Muni, he is a very interesting, we could give a whole class about how Vishvamrita Muni becomes this Brahmana matchmaker. Because Vishvamrita Muni starts off as a very materialistic Kshatriya. and actually an adharmic kshatriya who tries to steal Vasista's kamadhenu. First of all, he asked Vasista for his kamadhenu, which was completely improper for a kshatriya to ask a brahmana to give him something in charity, totally adharmic. And when Vasista says, no way, I need this cow's milk for the ghee for my yagya, then Vishvamrita actually attacks Vasista for a kshatriya to attack a brahmana to steal his cow. I mean, this is like adharma, 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 adharma. And there was this huge battle, and Vishvamrita pulls out all these weapons, and Vasista just vanquishes them with his Brahmin staff. And then the Kamadhenu just produces all these armies that just finishes Vishvamrita and his army. And he decides the Brahmanas have more power than the Kshatriyas, which they did. They had subtle powers that were not given to the Kshatriyas. And he said, so I'm going to become a Brahmana. So he wanted to become a Brahmana out of envy, out of greed. You follow? Lust, envy, greed, that was his motive. And of course, because that was his motive, it wasn't so easy for him. It took him 60,000 years. And first he had his problem with Menaka, right? Where he produced Shakuntala. Then he had his problem with Ramba, with anger. Anyway, eventually he does become not only a Brahmana, but eventually he becomes a Maharshi and a other one. Anyway, becomes the highest Brahmana in the universe. And in that position, he enters into the Leela of Lord Ramachandra. And what's his position in the Leela of Lord Ramachandra? He brings Ram and Lakshman to Sita's Swayamvar. He acts as the matchmaker between Ram and Sita. Right? That's his role. Now, he also appears in Chaitanya Leela as the Brahmana who arranges the marriage between Lakshmi Priya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And here he's the Brahmana who's the messenger, the go-between for Rukmini and Krishna. So he's in Vatsalya Bhav. He's in a parental humor as a matchmaker. And of course, it's interesting that he's in the Leelas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, and Lord Ramachandra. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says that some devotees are both in Gaura Leela and in Krishna Leela. Some are only in Gaura Leela, some are only in Krishna Leela, and obviously some are also in Ram Leela. So in this mood that he's in Vatsalya Bhav, Krishna is younger, and of course Prabhupada's pointing out that technically Krishna is also younger, he's a boy. And therefore Krishna is showing respect to the Brahmana. Now that's not just because of external etiquette, but it's also because of rasa. Because Krishna knows that this jiva wants to have a mood of Vatsalya Bhav. And in a mood of Vatsalya Bhav, he wants to be there helping Krishna and having Krishna show respect to him. You don't have Nanda and Yasoda bowing down with respect before Krishna. When Vasudeva and Devaki do that, then Krishna and Balaram cover them with Yogamaya, so they'll stop. They feel that it's not the proper mood. So Krishna's also reciprocating in love. This is also part of the science of love. What relationship do I have with this person? And there's proper ways of mixing and improper ways of mixing. And Srila Rupa Goswami explains this in detail. Certain rasas mix nicely, certain rasas don't mix nicely. Like you can have a mixture of servitude and friendship. You can have a mixture of parental and friendship. Like Balaram has this mixture of parental and friendship. You cannot mix conjugal and parental. Srila Rupa Goswami says if you have that even the tiniest drop, everything becomes polluted. You can mix neutrality with servitorship. Just like in the spiritual world, those in Shantaras, they have a little bit of Dasyaras. Some have a lot of Dasyaras. We have like the parrots who we could say are in Shantaras, but they're also messengers in Dasyaras. And then there's mixing with the 7 secondary rasas. Which of the 7 secondary rasas can mix with which of the primary rasas? And then there's mixing of the Vyavichari bhavs, which of the transitory emotions. Certain transitory emotions don't mix with certain primary emotions. Like laughter mixes very well with friendship or very well with conjugal, but it doesn't mix quite so well with servitorship. Right? If Krishna is joking with his friends and one of his servants also starts laughing, then they stop. They feel, oh, I'm being too intimate. And Srila Rupa Goswami says that if you mix things improperly, your rasa becomes an abhas. An abhas means a shadow or a reflection. If you don't mix things in the right way, then you don't actually get a taste. You get a shadow of a taste. Just like sometimes cooks are not very experienced and they put the wrong spices in the wrong dish. Or we had one cook in Philadelphia who really needed a cookbook. And she one time made avocado halva. So then you don't get rasa, you get a ras abhas. You get a shadow of taste. You don't get actual happiness. She also made a sabji. You all know what plantains are? You know, cooking bananas? So she cut the plantains up into maybe thirds. And then she had eggplant and red cabbage. And she boiled it. Boiled eggplant already is awful. So boiling eggplant with boiled plantains with boiled cabbage. And again, you know, eggplant is wonderful, plantains are wonderful, cabbage is wonderful. But by mixing them together, we no longer had a rasa. We had a ras abhas. We had a shadow of a taste, a reflection of a taste. So Krishna knows, of course, exactly what can be mixed with what and what cannot be mixed with what. And if he showed awe and veneration to this brahmana, right, that's going to be nourishing the brahmana's feeling of vatsalya bhav. And if he let the brahmana worship him, that would be diminishing this sense of vatsalya bhav. You know, you're not going to have this brahmana who's in the mood of parental act like a servant. So Krishna was very much respecting that and knowing what you can and cannot put together. And then finally, he's reciprocating with the relationship in an external sense. Because Krishna is performing his human pastimes. So because he's a kshatriya and the brahmana is a brahmana, therefore he's showing him respect. Although sometimes Krishna does let the brahmanas worship him. Sometimes brahmanas who know that Krishna is God worship him and Krishna allows it, which is the main reason why the son of the king of Kashi, Sudakshana, felt confident that he could kill Krishna. After Krishna killed the king of Kashi and threw his head into Kashi, and then Sudakshana saw this and was very angry, and he engaged brahmanas who were expert in black arts to produce a demon on the advice of Lord Shiva. And he was told by Lord Shiva and the brahmanas, this demon can only kill someone either who's not a brahmana or who's disrespectful to the brahmanas. And Sudakshana thought Krishna's disrespectful to the brahmanas because although he's a kshatriya, he lets brahmanas worship him. So he thought, of course, he wasn't victorious, and the demon was turned back by the Sudarshan chakra, by the personification of Sudarshan, and destroyed all of Kasi. So sometimes Krishna lets brahmanas worship him when he's here in his mood as a kshatriya, but generally he doesn't. All right, and then he asked the brahmana 3 questions. And these questions relate to the brahmana's varna. Does anybody remember the 3 questions? Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Specifically, are you peaceful, even when things don't go well? What's another one? Are the duties not difficult? Are your duties easy to perform? And the last one, Vriddha samantaha. Vriddha, the vriddhi. Are your viddhis from Shastra and from great acharyas? Are you doing something are your practices bona fide? This was a question Krishna asked of Nanda Maharaj about the Indra Yagya. Are these bona fide practices or have you made them up? That's a very important question, isn't it? And Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book talks about how these were appropriate questions for a brahmana. This point about asking appropriate questions is something that Interestingly enough, Srila Prabhupada brings up in relationship also to Vishvamrita, when he comes to see King Dasarath in order to take Ram and Lakshman to kill Taraka, Marich, and Subahu, and without having been open about that at the time, to marry Sita and Urmila. And Punar Janma Jayad, what is it? Punar Janma Jayada, I think it is. Have you become Jaya? Have you become victorious over repeated birth and death? That's what King Dasarath asked Vishvamrita. Are you becoming victorious over repeated birth and death? And Prabhupada says, if you go to a business person, you say, how's business? Right? If you go to a landscape designer, you say, how are your gardens? You go to, Prabhupada said, if someone would come to me, they would say, how is your preaching going? We have these examples in Shastra that saintly persons will go to a king and say, is your kingdom prosperous? Are your people protected? Are you happy with your advisors? That we ask questions according to a person's dharma. Now, understanding this is understanding why a person can't be in two varnas. The dharma of each varna is different. What's dharma in one varna is adharma in another. And we have a particular temperament. I was just hearing this morning Prabhupada saying the duty of the guru is to engage the disciple according to their temperament. Srila Prabhupada never once, ever used the words do the needful for take anybody of whatever temperament and just have them do whatever's necessary. He never, ever used it in that way. He used it like, I've sent a check in the mail for Mr. Patel, please pick it up at the post office and do the needful. In other words, fill in the details. I'm giving you the general instruction. You fill in the details. But Prabhupada never advised, except for brief emergencies, having people do something other than their temperament. Why? Because my temperament cannot be repressed. And if I bring my temperament into someone else's duties, I'm going to do them wrongly. I'm going to do them according to my temperament. If I have a Vaishya temperament and I'm doing Kshatriya work, I'm going to try to make a profit out of government. If I have a Vaishya temperament, I'm doing Brahminical work, I'm going to try to make a profit out of knowledge. If I have a Vaishya temperament and I'm doing Shudra work, I'm going to destroy the craft. I'm going to try to automate it to make more money and make it bigger. If I have a Kshatriya temperament, I try to do Vaishya work, then I'm going to try to do it for social justice. I won't make a profit and the business will fail. If I have a Kshatriya mentality and I'm doing Shudra work, my desire for justice is going to be very frustrated. I may become a vigilante or an agitator. If I have a Brahminical temperament and I'm doing Shudra work, I'm not going to want to please the customers or the clients. I'll become insubordinate. Or I may not appreciate that the beauty of that field is to provide the pleasures of society. I may be too detached. I may dry up the field. And there are many, many more examples. I'm going to have my own temperament. Krishna says to Arjuna, you have your temperament. You're going to do your temperament whether you like it or not. The question is whether you're going to do it for me or illusion. So because there are these different dharmas, therefore one asks about someone and relates to someone according to their dharma. The same with the ashrams. You're not going to ask a sannyasi the same question as you ask of a grihasta. You know, if you go to a grihasta, are you being kind to your wife? Is she being kind to you? Do you have enough money in the bank? Right? So you're not going to ask that of a sannyasi. Now let's look again at these three specific questions. He says to the Brahmana, are you doing things that are bona fide? So this, of course, is not just a question for Brahmanas, but this is a question for anybody who's following any kind of vritti, any kind of spiritual process. Are you doing things that are bona fide? Yasya prasada bhagava prasada, yasya prasada nagati katopi. If we make something up, we're finished. And it's interesting, Srila Sanatana Goswami says, are your current gurus teaching you the same thing as the previous gurus? It's one of the Strotriyam Brahmanistam. How do you know someone's a guru? Strotriyam Brahmanistam. They have heard and they themselves have realized. Strotriya means they're following their predecessor. If we have a self-made guru or a guru who's concocting, then that's going to be blind leading the blind. Then are your duties being able to be done without difficulty? This is again something, nobody should be going through great difficulty to do their duties. Krishna says that the duties are arranged in this world for living happily and attaining liberation. Prabhupada talked about having peace and prosperity. If our duties are killing us, that's not actually pleasing to Krishna. You know, that's really tamagun mixed with rajagun. I do such hard, difficult work. I never get enough sleep. I don't have time to eat healthily. I mean, that's not understanding that my body is a temple of God, that my body and mind belong to Krishna. They're Krishna's property. Our duty we should do austerities, but not austerities that injure our body and mind. Austerities that injure the body and mind are in the mode of ignorance, and they cause pain to the supersoul. If I'm doing such austerities that I'm injuring my body and mind, then I'm actually causing pain to the Lord, and I will not become elevated. Well, my duty they have some austerity. Without some austerity, we can't make any advancement. We don't want to be just lazy. That's another side of tamagun. But our duties should not be so difficult that they're injuring us. And then the other thing is to be peaceful even when things go poorly. Even when our duties don't give us the results that we want. And I think it's very significant that Srila Sanatana Goswami and Srila Prabhupada talk about how this peacefulness is the basis of all other good qualities. Now, why is that? You know, it's easy to be honest when everything's going well. But if things aren't going well and I feel threatened, then I may think, well, I have to lie in order to protect myself. It's easy to be kind when everything's going well. But if we're under some kind of stress and fear, then we may give up our kindness. If we analyze, we tend to give up our good qualities when we don't feel peaceful. Am I correct? Yeah? So the key to all good qualities is this inner peace. And where does this inner peace come from? Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshram suridam sarvabhutanam gyadvamam shantim richati. This inner peace comes from something I talked about in the beginning, how Krishna is able to be peaceful with this Brahmana and take care of him first because he's self-satisfied. And knowing that Krishna is the controller of everything, he's the one who's to enjoy my activities, and he's my best friend. Therefore, everything I need will be taken care of. Therefore, I can be peaceful even when things go poorly. So we should understand this science of relationships. Seeking to understand before wanting to be understood. Taking care of others. Being able to have that confidence that I'll be taken care of. Taking care of others according to their relationship with me and according to Dharma in this world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Kandar Agung Vikamania Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Kriya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Adipurusham Namaho Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Sammaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacha Nege Nivesesha Shunyavati Masya Jagade Satarande Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gaurada Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gaurada Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hey Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nayaran, Agalokanana, Agalokanana, Tagade. Nayaran, Agalokanana, Agalokanana, Tagade. Nayaran, hey! Rate, rate, rate. Yeah, rate, rate, rate. Rate. Jaya Sri Ragate Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa.
Darpanam marjanam avamahadavani nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrikavitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Ananda Buddhi Vardhanam Patipanam Purnamita Swadanam Sarvavasnapanam Parnikayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapidani Mamita Smaranena Kala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tororapi Sahishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatat Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galashu Daraya Varanam Gadgaduradaya Gira Pulakarnishita Babukada Vanamagrahaneva Vishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahena Me Ashlishyavapadamritam Ranastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotiva Yatatata Vishnam Batomat Prananatasta Suveva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan. which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, I approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice become up? And when will the hairs of my body stand an end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Sri Shastrika Ki Jai. I just want to make one quick announcement that on Friday this week, it's last Friday in Hillsborough, and it's a really good time for Harinam. We go downtown on Churton Street, and that'll happen between 6 and 8 on Friday evening. It's really going to be nice because it's getting to be like the 4th of July season too. Hare Krishna.